Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kircha. Coming up in today's newscast, it is official. Naama Issachar has been released from jail, and she's on her way back to Israel with a very special travel partner. We have the update.
The Palestinian community is reacting to U.S. President Donald Trump's Middle Eastern peace plan, and they are not happy.
And we have the rundown on the top hotels to stay in when you come and visit Jerusalem. Well, it's official. Naama Issachar has just been released from Russian prison, and the Israeli Prime Minister has even picked her up in his government plane. Now, the Israeli-American woman has been in jail for 10 months on drug smuggling charges, but now that she's received a presidential pardon from the Russian government, she can finally walk free.
אני רוצה להודות לך בשם כל עם ישראל על ההחלטה המהירה שלך לתת חנינה לנעמה יששכר. זה דבר שמרגש את כולנו. והתודה שלנו ניתנת באמת מכל אזרחי ישראל, מכל הלב.
That's the Israeli Prime Minister thanking Russian President Vladimir Putin for allowing a young Israeli-American woman to walk free from Russian prison. Today, Naama Issachar is going home to Tel Aviv after an almost year-long ordeal that has changed the course of her life. Naama Issachar was supposed to arrive home just in time for the summer, but what should have been an exciting homecoming to Tel Aviv turned into a nightmare during her layover in Moscow. The now 27-year-old was on her way home to Israel from India when she was arrested back in April of 2019. An alleged 10 grams of marijuana had been found in her luggage during a layover at the Moscow airport, and she was soon charged with drug smuggling and sentenced to 7.5 years in prison. The Israeli-American has denied the charges, claiming she wasn't planning to enter Russia during the layover and that she had no access to her luggage at the time. From the beginning, her family says that she was being framed.
I think it's something a lot bigger and a lot deeper, and it's been obvious that 7.5 years is the punishment doesn't fit the crime. So yeah, I do think she's being used as a political pawn.
Naama is believed to have been used as a political hostage in a diplomatic struggle between Russia, Israel, and the U.S. over the release of Russian prisoner Alexei Burkov, who has just pleaded guilty to running a website that helped people commit more than $20 million in credit card fraud in the United States. Well, now it looks like Naama's nightmare has finally come to an end. Prime Minister Netanyahu has just arrived in Moscow to welcome Naama upon her release and take her back home to Israel on his plane.
Вы знаете, что указ на ее помилование подписан. Она, слава богу, для нее это очень хорошо, не пересекала даже границу Российской Федерации. Все это было найдено у нее в багаже при перемещении багажа из одного самолета в другой. Передайте самые наилучшие пожелания и ей, и ее семье, и ее маме.
On Wednesday, Russian President Vladimir Putin pardoned her on humanitarian principles, and Netanyahu subsequently thanked his, quote, friend Putin for the move, saying he was looking forward to meeting the leader in Russia on Thursday. But senior Israeli officials claim that Naama's release didn't actually have anything to do with Israel. Rather, it was a goodwill gesture towards the United States, since Israel hasn't given Moscow anything in return. According to Israeli reports, Russia had originally asked Israel to transfer a piece of the Russian Orthodox Church property in Jerusalem to the Kremlin, but Justice Ministry officials in Israel opposed the measure. But Naama's family certainly aren't thinking about the politics around her release. Her mother, Yafa Issachar, says she couldn't sleep all night and is thanking Israel for helping Naama get out. It is just unbelievable what that family has done to get their daughter out of jail. 10 months.
Yeah.
I mean, you could never have imagined that the Prime Minister would go and pick her up in his plane.
No,
but it is, of course, close to the elections.
It's close to the elections, but you know what? Either way, it's a blessing. It's good to have her back. Naama, we're glad that you're freed. Now let's get back to the United States' monumental new peace deal, because the Palestinian Authority is not stopping with just rejecting the deal. They are now calling for protest.
For months, the Palestinian Authority has been saying that the Peace to Prosperity deal is a non-starter because it doesn't give the PA control over Jerusalem nor account for Palestinian refugees.
And now, less than a day since its release, PA President Abbas has penned a letter to Prime Minister Netanyahu in which he attacks the so-called deal of the century as an abandonment of the Oslo Accords And therefore, Abbas argues that the PA is now free to break from any and all agreements signed with Israel, including security coordination in Judea and Samaria or the West Bank territories.
Meanwhile, PA President Abbas and his Fatah party are campaigning against the deal both at home and abroad. The party has released a music video calling for violence against the deal, and Abbas is planning to speak before the United Nations Security Council in the next few weeks to drum up support for his own version of an agreement.
We will try our best with our friends to have the strongest possible resolution or draft resolution, and to receive the strongest and largest possible voting in favor of that resolution. Of course, we would like to see that a strong, large opposition to this Trump plan, and to reflect the language of the global consensus.
The PA's draft is unlikely to pass, however, because the United States will probably veto it at the Security Council, especially as the PA will not even consider negotiating their existing deal. As for the music video, the president's Fatah party published it just after the deal's publication. It features an armed Hamas-affiliated band calling for the U.S. deal, as well as any who support it, to be trampled.
بندوسها صفقة قرن بندوسها عنا رجال مجربة بين المنايا مدربة بندوسها صفقة قرن بندوسها سلاحها بيديها اوعى تقرب عليها لك تزيد افعالها وتزيد حتى اهوالها الحكي مش نافع نمسحها
I just cannot believe that that is real. But you remember a couple of years ago when another music video was released?
Well, they released a lot of music videos.
Yeah, and they were speaking in Hebrew, and it actually became a hit in clubs here in Israel because people thought it was so funny. Anyhow, moving on. Now, joining us to discuss the security concerns surrounding the U.S.'s peace deal, we have Colonel in the Reserves and Knesset candidate for Israel Beitenu, Olivier Rafkowitz. All right, so the first question is, what is going to happen? Is Oslo dead? And if so, what does that mean?
Oslo is not dead. I mean, nothing is dead for the time being. There is an American peace deal, very, very interesting, very important. We have to learn all the details. It's a long process to learn, and to learn every point, every sentence, every issue in this very complex and very structured
plan.
But
the Palestinians have rejected it outright, and now, I mean, it seems that we're seeing a call for violence here. We have Turkey against us, we have Jordan against us, a lot of states in the Middle East, maybe not the Gulf states, we can get into that, but...
Natasha, let's keep cool. You are right that for the time being, the Palestinians officially have fully rejected all the plan, but it's not something new. They are generally rejecting everything coming from the American, coming from the Israeli, so it's not very new. What is very interesting here in this specific timing, to my opinion, is that for the first time in the history of the Middle East, some Arab countries, like Egypt, big country, almost 100 million people, the Saudis, the Emirates, are not against the plan.
Right.
They're not for the plan, but they're not against the plan. They say that they need to learn the plan, they need to learn all the details of the plan, and for the time being, they're also asking the Palestinians maybe to join the study of the plane.
So what about these reports that Abbas, I mean, that's probably what you want to ask about Abbas.
Exactly. Abbas is now saying, again, that Oslo is dead and that he's going to end security cooperation with Israel. I mean, how feasible is that?
Yeah.
You see, there is the words and there is the facts on the ground. On the ground, Mahmoud Abbas needs, more than we need him, needs the Israeli military and intelligence cooperation in order to remain in power. Because without the Israeli I would say, really military support, it can lose just power. And the Hamas or Islamic groups can just replace the Palestinian Authority. So the fact that yesterday he sent a letter to Netanyahu through Kahlon, the Treasury Minister, in order to say that he's threatening Israel, is not a real threat. Because when you want to threat your enemy, so-called, you're not going to send a letter.
Well, so I have a follow-up actually then, because if you're saying that the Palestinian Authority with Abbas at the top cannot really afford to lose Israeli security coordination,
exactly.
Is it realistic to ask Abbas and the Palestinian Authority to then retake Gaza from these same terror groups?
Can they do it? I mean, that's...
If you ask me if they can do it, they cannot do it. If something is able to do it instead of them, yes, The issue is to replace the Hamas regime in the Gaza Strip by something else is a possibility. We're not now going to discuss the ways to replace Hamas regime in the Gaza Strip. Of course, Mahmoud Abbas is not capable to do it, but is at least the formal political agent to replace, at the end of the day, the Hamas regime in the Gaza Strip. I think that there will be a need of Israeli, American, and regional effort. I'm not going to get into details right now to replace the Hamas regime with, at the end of the day, the puppet of the Iranian regime. Because Hamas without Iran is not capable to remain in power. That's why the Turks, that's why the Iranians are against the plan. But we now enter in a real regional geopolitical issue. It's not a Palestinian-Israeli issue. Just if I may, for many, many years, people outside thought that the Israeli-Palestinian issue is a two players issue.
No, but
not
it's a regional issue.
And because it's a regional issue, because it is a fact, so we have many players. So let's see and let's wait carefully.
See how this plays out. Thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
Now, moving on, while Palestinian officials are appealing to the international community, Palestinians on the ground are taking to the streets. Now, it's crisis in the Middle East following the release of the United States' peace plan, as the Palestinians' call for aggression is being answered with riots and rockets. Tensions had started just hours into the early evening Wednesday with an attempted stabbing at the Temple Mount. 2 suspects, one armed with a knife, were arrested, and thankfully there are no reported injuries. But the IDF is still deploying reinforcements across Judea and Samaria, or the West Bank, as well as along the Gaza border, in preparation for further reprisals, which followed shortly after. Small demonstrations have continued across the Jordan Valley and West Bank, prompting limited response by the IDF, but including arrests, use of rubber bullets, tear gas, and at times even live fire. The PA's Wafa News reports 2 Palestinians as wounded by live fire, while several others were injured by non-lethal arms. Meanwhile, Palestinian terrorists in the Gaza Strip were firing mortar shells into southern Israel, and the Israeli Air Force has retaliated, hitting several Hamas targets across the region, including a weapons manufacturing site and an underground infrastructure. Again, though, no casualties are reported.
All right, so for the last 130 years, the world has celebrated Vincent Van Gogh as one of the world's most influential modern artists of all time. And now you can actually get lost in his works in the beach town of Herzliya.
And in the city of Jerusalem, you can actually get lost in a tropical forest. ILTV's Shanna Fold has both of these stories. Shanna, tell us about the Van Gogh exhibit first, because I understand there's a lot of augmented reality and really cool technology going on here.
Yeah, so I went to the exhibit, and I would recommend spending all afternoon there. Clear out your schedule for it. It was fantastic. So let's begin with the VR exhibit. There is this great portion where you put Oculus goggles on and you go through the countryside, seeing places that Van Gogh had lived or visited, and it then a frame comes down and it takes the image that you see and it makes it into a mimic of his painting.
Sure.
So it's very cool.
Stylizes it. That's very cool.
Yes.
Wait, so can you kind of just give us some background about what this exhibition is trying to do? Because it's not just showing off his photos, it's telling us about his life, right?
So the exhibit tells about his
paintings. Sorry.
The exhibit tells about his life through paintings. More so, I would say you can see his style. You can see, for example, there's one room that has a lot of images on the walls, and you can see the similarities amongst the images. He was a person who painted the same thing over and over again. And so you can see that in this exhibit. Now, another thing is there's a vase on the wall mounted with 30 of his flower paintings, and they are, it's a projection, and they are morphing and ever-changing. And I recommend you sit down and just enjoy it.
All right, well, let's move on to Jerusalem now, because unfortunately we're running out of time. Tell us about this tropical garden.
So the tropical garden is the new botanical gardens there. They went through a $2 million upgrade, and it's very cool. There's 300 plants. We have banana trees, coffee plants, orchids, cactus, and there's also a columbarium, which I learned is a rock formation that has divots in it. It used to be for birds. Now they have plants in it, and it's from the Second Temple period time.
Well, these photos are gorgeous.
Well, I mean, these are two things that we just have to go and do. I really want to actually go to Jerusalem.
And it's 35 shekels to enter.
Oh, that's nothing. All right, there you go, another incentive. All right, thank you for joining us.
You're welcome.
All right, now moving on. I don't know about you guys, but I love looking at posts about food on social media. I mean, let's face it, we also eat with our eyes. It's part of the deal, which is why more and more chefs and restaurant owners are actually taking the internet by storm. So what are today's biggest food trends? Well, joining us with the answer is food writer and journalist Karen Brown. So what is up first? What's the biggest food trend right now?
Okay, so the biggest trend now on Instagram is everything pink and pastel colors. People are loving showing off their best life, showing off, like designing their life through food. So you have these big pink donuts and pink pastries, and then all the stuff that comes with it, like all the packaging for the restaurants and bakeries are like pink and pastel colors with quotes, inspirational quotes.
Inspirational quotes.
Some of them
as
are.
as you eat a donut.
Yeah, there's some funny ones like who needs abs when you have donuts, kind of thing.
That's fair. That does make you feel better. What else are there? Are there any other colors?
So there's also the black. There's a lot of black desserts, which was a trend in the U.S. and came here a bit later. But basically, it's all about this activated charcoal, which is kind of like a detox. So people like to buy these black ice cream cones and black smoothies to get this detox.
Black face masks. I mean, yeah, it's true. There is a big trend with black food items lately. All right, but what else? What is another trend?
So another trend is like this animalistic meaty thing where everybody's coming with these huge hamburgers. It's like totally over the top. There's like restaurants called Fat Cow and like things like that that are all meaty and beefy.
These are some of my favorites.
Yeah, and it's really fun because like people are letting go. So like back in the day when people used to like smoke cigarettes, now people know it's super unhealthy. People think of meat as unhealthy, but like they go out and have meat instead of.
But they still want to take a picture of their hamburger and show it with the world.
Yeah, show the world that they let go.
Well, so speaking of taking these artistic photos and that go trending all over the world, we have artistic food on Instagram as well, like, right?
Tell us about that.
So there's a lot of artistic, like the restaurants are already making plates that go with the food. Like they're creating this big work of art on the plate. And the whole thing is that when you go out, you don't only go out to eat, you get like the whole all-encompassing artistic experience.
Yeah.
So it's more than just food.
Yeah, that's true. But that kind of stuff kind of annoys me sometimes when I go into restaurants because I'm like, I just want to eat this dish. And I care more about how it tastes.
I definitely
and how it
appreciate the presentation.
The presentation is important. That's fair. And let's face it, I go through Instagram and I love looking at the photos like this. I just get upset about when I have to eat them and it's not enough. That's all. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
I think we're on board.
Thank you.
All right, now when you're visiting a new city for the first time, you typically ask for recommendations from friends on where to stay or simply check the TripAdvisor website. But when you're getting ready to visit Jerusalem, don't bother wasting your time anymore because ILTV's Emmanuel Kadosh has some great hotels for you to check out.
Hey guys, so for us, it's never really an issue to think where we're going to spend our night in Jerusalem because it's typically a day trip from Tel Aviv to the capital city. But I went to scope out some of the best boutique hotels for any of our viewers looking to spend a few nights in the city. Take a look. When planning your visit to Israel, one of the main locations to visit is always the capital city of Jerusalem. So I'm about to show you a few of the top boutique hotels that you can stay at so that you're next to all the major sites in the city. Our first stop is the Biazi Hotel, located in the Nechalat Achim neighborhood right here in Jerusalem.
The Biazi Hotel was built in honor to my late father, Eliyahu Biazi, in a place where he lived as a child in his family's two-rooms house.
When you first get into this hotel, you get a rundown on the history of the Biazi family, the building itself, and all the artifacts that decorate the hotel.
The hotel was designed to give the guest the sense of his unique spirit.
The hotel has 6 rooms, all labeled with different types of desserts in honor of Biazi, who used to be a gourmet baker.
התמונה הזאת היא הדיוקן של אבא שלי, שהיא עשויה בעצם ממטבעות ישנות. יש פה 3,000 אגורות שהיו לפני שהיה שקל.
Now we're off to the next hotel. The Pamonim Hotel has a luxury and modern design concept and is a short distance from the Old City, which is where you can find some of Jerusalem's holiest sites.
The hotel is actually a family-run business with huge love for Jerusalem. We're 10th generation family in the city, so we know the city like the back of our hands.
The Pamonim Hotel is right in the center of the city and is 2 steps away from the light rail that takes you all over Jerusalem. The hotel focuses on employee diversity with workers from Christian, Arabic, Jewish, and all different types of religious backgrounds. The management team at this hotel are almost all family. There are brothers and sisters, aunts and uncles, all working together at the Pamonim.
We can share with our guests all the hidden spots that Jerusalem has to offer, and the really cool thing about it, that it's just walking distance from the hotel. We really try to make our guests feel at home.
Very nice. Now I have some new recommendations to make. Now, Emmanuel, you're staying with us. Don't go anywhere for this next story. It's award season in the U.S. right now. The Grammys are behind us, but we have the Academy Awards to look forward to. And you all might recognize one Israeli actress that is set to present at the ceremony. Emmanuel, you obviously have the details for this.
Of course. The full roster for the 2020 Academy Awards ceremony presenters was released just last night, and it's no shock that one of the more talked about actresses and our very own Wonder Woman Gal Gadot is on that list. Now, Gadot first presented an Oscar back in 2018, and she's just become more and more famous over the years, so naturally it was a no-brainer.
So I'm sure that everyone knows by now, but give us a quick rundown on what Gadot has coming up in the world of film.
Right, so Gal Gadot is of course best known for her role in playing the Amazon princess in multiple Wonder Woman movies. However, she really has proven herself as a talented and versatile actress with her non-superhero roles, like in the movie Death on the Nile. She's also set to co-produce alongside her husband Jason Bersano an adaptation of the 2014 Hebrew novel Border Life. And on top of that, she's set to star alongside Dwayne Johnson and Ryan Reynolds in Red Notice for Netflix, so she has a lot going on here.
All right, and who can forget her production company, Pilot Wave, that she just co-founded with her husband as well.
Right.
Which I'm sure they'll be releasing, some epic films sooner than later.
But wait, back to the Oscars real quick. Is there anyone else that is set to present that we would be interested in here in Israel?
Right, well, another Jewish presenter this year is Timothée Chalamet, who stars on films like Call Me By Your Name and Little Women, and Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who's best known for her role in Veep and Seinfeld, of course. Both are the ceremony presenters on the list as well.
Fun fact, Timothée Chalamet actually went to high school with my sister.
Oh, really?
Really cool. Anyhow, I'm really hoping that I get to watch the Oscars this year because it's typically airing in the middle of the night in Israel, and so we're going to probably have to stay up all night to watch it. Don't know if that will be possible, but now we have a reason to, so thanks for the update, Emmanuel.
Of course.
All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast. Tonight should be partly cloudy, cool, and with a chance of rain. And the low should sit around 49 or 9 degrees Celsius. And then over the weekend, you can expect more cloudy and rainy skies overhead, but the weather should warm up just a little bit to an average high of 60 or 16 degrees Celsius. Now, before we go, let's take a look at what is going viral in Israel on tubing.
أنا ما بخاف بس أنا بدي اطلع اطلع لا ما بدي أنا بدي أنا بدي بعد يوم أنا بدي أنا ما بخاف ولكن
I love the friend who's just, egging him on.
Yeah, obviously. This is not in Israel. This video isn't in Israel, but I've seen it posted all over social media here. People love this because we have some camels in Israel ourselves.
And they're cute.
And I would totally do that to any one of my friends if I was in that situation.
But that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.45 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras.
And I'm Natasha Kirchak. Thanks for watching.